the structure of the neuron, they're trying to represent it as little nerve endings here, my axon over here, my nerve cell body. And this would be synapsing onto what looks like another nerve cell. Because remember, if we've got a nerve cell, this end can synapse to another nerve, muscle, or gland. Is everybody with me so far? So, it comes into the gray matter, where I've got nerve cell bodies. We get a synapse. Note, it synapses directly on the efferent fiber that leaves, innervates the opposing muscle to make your knee, make your leg go back to proper position. I created an arc.
Is the arc just the things going in opposite directions?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Where you're going to have your start, sort of, I guess if you want to call it the middle, the integrating, and the effect.
Okay.
This is a very simplified way of showing what can happen in the knee-jerk reflex. Very simple one, okay? It's sitting down. We're not really affecting posture in any way, okay? So it's a very simple reflex. Not all reflexes are that simple, okay? But the process is very similar, all right? And
so earlier we were talking about how it takes like 3 neurons for you to like have the response, but this looks like it's only 2 because it's not okay.
This is termed monosynaptic because we only needed 1 synapse.
Oh.
So now what happens, okay, yes, we'll register in the brain that it happened, but it didn't need a lot of extra help. Very simple, very quick, very stereotyped, not a lot needed at the area of those synapses, quick. Very simple reflex. But if we look a little more into parts that are present, that play a huge role, and this is kind of bringing stuff in from part 1. The muscle spindle. Do you all remember that? Okay. Probably didn't spend a lot of time on that, but it's simply in the muscle that exists in the body, okay? In our muscles, towards the ends of them, okay, that skeletal muscle has specialized fibers, and they are found in skeletal muscle. Proprioceptors are present, and these are specialized organs that can be found in the muscles, joints, and does anybody remember what else? Ligament of the body. Now, here's what happens. Remember, the reaction came quickly. Stereotype, pretty much the same for everybody. But that muscle spindle did get information to the brain. The brain will register it, but it did not in any way need to give us a response. It simply registered it. That's it. If the brain needs to give or get involved, which in some cases it can, the goal, it's going to get involved in bigger reflexes, ones where we may end up toppling over, because it doesn't want the body to do that. I saw a picture of a shirt that said, "I'm not clumsy. It's just that stairs don't like me," and something about the walls and the floors or something. I can't remember everything it said, but it was really cute. I was like, wow, I kind of need that shirt. But then I was like, no, my best friend needs it more than I do. And so, you know, I was like, now I wish I would have thought about it for today. So when we have to get a little more involved on a reflex, the brain might need to come into play, because we may need to have a corrective reflex, meaning if we pull away on one side of the body, we got to make sure the other side of the body can compensate. Might need to affect muscle tone, how contracted is that muscle, and then make sure we keep our posture correct. So reflexes are not always just simple, like the knee jerk. Reflexes can actually be a little more involved. But this is a picture of the muscle fibers and, well, a muscle as a whole, and how some of those fibers are specialized to be these organs for the muscle spindle. In other words, they're going to be found towards the ends of a muscle, and they will help with the reflexes that occur. And then it kind of shows, note that what it's showing us in this specialized fiber, tons of nerve fibers, like that nerve just wrapped around and around and around, picking up all that information for that muscle. Why would it be important for the body to recognize stretch in a muscle? Recovery, if we maybe something happens and gets pulled too far, okay, which is something those of you who are going to physical therapy will definitely learn a lot about, because these structures come into play.
Are there actually breaks in the myelin sheath, or is that just for the picture to show you something?
These right here?
Yeah.
No, this is actually, of course it's blown up in size, but what this is showing on a nerve coming to meet a muscle fiber, because these are peripheral, and remember the myelin is there for protection, but remember it only laid it down as myelin, 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 okay, so spot, 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 and in between would be bare nerve, bare axon, and those are the points where it's called nodes of Ranvier.
That sounds familiar.
Well, they may have pronounced it differently. Some people might say nodes of Ranvier,
No.
but it's a French term, so it's nodes of Ranvier. And it's areas where the plasma membrane is available, and you can have the exchange of the ions to keep that action potential moving.
Okay.
Okay? So the muscle spindles, like I said, usually located at the ends of the muscles. Usually about 7 to 8 of the muscle fibers are specialized. The rest of the fibers, they're there to do their job, which is move by way of those sarcomeres. Now, this right here, gamma motor, that sort of thing, I'm not asking a whole lot for you guys to remember a whole lot about that, okay? But what I want you to recognize, it is motor, okay? So it is for movement, all right? That's what I want you to note. Now, what we're going to see is, all right, their job, monitor the length of those fibers and the speed at which they change. under normal conditions, under movement we are consciously aware of, hopefully we're only going to move the muscles to the point they need to be moved. All right? So, you know, if we're walking, hopefully we're not kind of like trying to go, you know, and try to stretch those muscles too far. Hopefully we're keeping them at the point they need to be. But wait a minute, there can sometimes be something that happens that make my muscle go into a position it doesn't need to be in. And then it ends up hurting. And you end up kind of being like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle this. You know, this is never going to stop, whatever the case might be. Maybe you messed up the hamstring playing sports or whatever. But anyway, under normal conditions, we're monitoring what happens with them. Good example of the function of the spindle fibers, like I keep saying, keeping us standing upright because we're not supposed to be. All right? So, when we talk about reflexes that can occur, well, very simply, was that one of the stretch. All right? The one that was given is the example of the knee jerk. There are other stretch reflexes that can occur, but the knee jerk is the easiest. When a reflex occurs, did you note how I tried to point out there were two muscles that were involved? Okay? Because muscles always work in opposition. You always have a muscle or muscles that are trying to make something move, okay? And then you also have your groups of muscles that want to bring it back to the normal position, okay? So we will always have muscles that work in one direction and others that work in the opposite direction. This helps us maintain equilibrium and posture. Good example, when you're falling asleep in class, once you get to a certain point, your head pops back up, okay? Because the muscles of the neck know we can't meet that position anymore, okay? So your head pops back up. We need these pieces that exist in the muscles as well as tendons and ligaments. We need them to help, and muscles themselves, to stabilize joints. All right? Have you ever seen somebody who could like do the really loose movements with their joints and stuff? I'm always amazed by that. Okay? Can anybody in here do that kind of, where it's like they almost can bend the opposite direction and stuff? I was up in DC and on the metro, and in the areas where you're waiting for it to stop and everything, well, this group of kids come out. I say kids, but they were older, probably late teens, maybe early 20s. And they came out and they had like the music box and, to collect money, that sort of thing. And I'm just kind of standing there waiting to see what's going to, just kind of watching. And then they start dancing. And I'm going, you can't move the body like that. The body's not supposed to move like that. And, hubby's like, leave one. I'm like, no, I gotta go ask him. So I go over there and I'm like, just kind of sneak over and I make sure, put some money in the bucket. I'm kind of like, dude, how do y'all move like that? I said, what is this? And it was called breakbone dancing. And I was like, what? Breakbone. Breakbone, like you've broken a bone. Because, he goes, well, we have to work really, really hard, and stretch stuff out. And I'm like, okay, I'm an anatomy and physiology teacher. I'm like, it's going to really hurt, right? He was real nice talking to me, explaining it to me and everything. And I was just amazed at the movements they were making.
So I was in VA Beach, and there was people in training. I took my daughter there. So this guy was very elastic, super elastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was actually explaining the science behind it. He's like,
okay,
in the early age, like when they are
younger,
like 10, below,
Mhm.
they